Hey, so this is a segment from a longer video. If you'd like to check out that video, you can click the link in the description, or we got the card up here. You can click that button. It'll drop down and I'll have the video right in there. So, enjoy. Anyway, Mr. White goes on to read the next two verses in 2 Timothy. They say, all scripture is inspired by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, for training in righteousness, so that the man of God may be adequate, equipped for every good work. Now that's from the NASB translation of the Bible. Mr. White ends up switching Bible translations here. He goes to the ESV because he doesn't really like the word adequate here as much as he likes the word complete.
Now the New American Standard has, I think, a really translation at that point. Adequate. The ESV, complete.
Now I'm fine with either translation. I'm sure Mr. White is too. I actually agree with Mr. White on this. I think complete sounds a lot better than adequate these days, just because people hear the word adequate now and they're like, adequate. That's all right, but complete sounds better. So I have no problem with Mr. White switching translations, but I do have a problem with something Mr. White's about to do. So Mr. White, first off, tell us what's important about this verse.
The important point is right here, exartizo. Exartizo.
All right, so he's going Greek on us again. He says exartizo. What is exartizo? Sounds dirty.
Let me pop up a dictionary here. Exartizo, to make someone completely adequate, or what's the word right there? Sufficient for something.
Okay, so exartizo means to make someone completely adequate or sufficient for something, which means that according to this letter to Timothy, the scriptures can make the man of God completely adequate or sufficient for something.
What's the word right there? Sufficient.
Cool, so the man of God can be made sufficient with the scriptures. And guess what? The man of music can be made sufficient with this guitar pick. So what is it that has the potential of being sufficient in both of these cases? The answer is the man of God and the man of music. Notice how the scriptures and the guitar pick are never called sufficient. The scriptures and the guitar pick can help to make a person sufficient, but we're never told that the scriptures or the guitar pick are sufficient. That being said, Mr. White is about to try really hard now to make the word sufficient apply to the scriptures and not just to the person. So enjoy.
It seems rather obvious to me that if the man of God is sufficient, completely adequate, made thoroughly equipped for every good work by that which is theopneustos, that this teaches the sufficiency of Scripture to function as what? The sole infallible rule of faith, the church. I think that's what the doctrine of Sola Scriptura is, isn't it?
Mr. White seems to think that it's rather obvious that if the man of God is sufficient, completely adequate, made thoroughly equipped for every good work by that which is theopneustos, in other words, God-breathed, then this teaches the sufficiency of Scripture to function as the sole infallible rule of faith for the church. So as an equation, Mr. White is basically saying if a person is made sufficient for a task by an item, then that item is sufficient for the task. That's not how things work here in reality, but let's just run through it for fun. So here's an item. This is my guitar pick. This makes me sufficient for the task of playing music. See, watch, I have a guitar. I have arms that can hold the guitar. I have a hand that can press down the strings that I want for the chord that I'm playing. And then I have this other hand that I can hold the guitar pick in. And then I can do one of those, maybe one of these. Throw in one of these too. That one's free. So yeah, this guitar pick has made me sufficient for the task of playing music. So the task is playing music and the item is a guitar pick. If we follow Mr. White's same logic, then if a person is made sufficient for playing music by a guitar pick, then the guitar pick is sufficient for playing music. So I'm gonna borrow you as our stand here and a guitar pick. There we go. All right, play me a song. Dude, what's that? Oh, we can't play a song? Just to be clear here, I'm talking to the iron right now. I'm not talking to the guitar pick. That'd be crazy, all right? Guitar picks cannot talk. But yeah, you were saying? Oh yeah, I knew that beforehand. This is not sufficient for playing a song. It can make me sufficient. If I have it, then I can be sufficient, provided that I have the guitar, provided that my limbs are working, provided that I know how to play the guitar. It can make me sufficient. But the guitar can also make me sufficient for playing music. My arms can make me sufficient for playing music. Maybe I don't even have a guitar. Maybe I have a flute or a trumpet or a drum set. Those things would also make me sufficient for playing music. But again, just because this guitar pick can make me sufficient for playing music, it doesn't mean that this little guitar pick here is sufficient for playing music. So yeah, again, we see Mr. White is teaching something that just simply isn't true and just doesn't make sense. That being said, I do find his explanation for it pretty hilarious.
It seems rather obvious to me.
It seems rather obvious to him. That was the extent of his explanation for all of this stuff he just said here. That'd be like me saying, it seems rather obvious, guys. I mean, if I have the guitar pick and it makes me sufficient for playing music, then if I have the guitar pick by itself, then it alone should be sufficient for playing music. Right? That's obvious, isn't it? I mean, listen to the guy. Right, they don't talk. I forget, they don't talk. Again though, this obvious bit is something that false teachers will commonly do. It's not always bad to say something's obvious, sometimes things are obvious, but I do find that false teachers like Mr. White will use the word obvious a lot, which I feel like that's a tactic where they're thinking, oh, I'll say it's obvious, that way people won't ask questions because they don't want to feel like the dumb person who doesn't know what's obvious. What Mr. White is saying there is not obvious. It's not even true. So when Mr. White says something's obvious, question him on it. Say, why is it obvious, man? Explain it to us. As you can see in our video, we didn't just say, hey, that's obviously wrong. We explained why it was wrong. We looked at the pick. We showed an example, why that doesn't work. But Mr. White can't do that. He can't say it's obvious and here's why it's obvious. He could just say, it's obvious, guys. Believe me. And then for some reason, Jeff Durbin does. But hopefully not for too much longer. Jeff, if you're watching this, you don't have to be his parrot. You can hop off his shoulder, stop just repeating whatever he says, and actually do some research. If you have questions, let us know. We can try to answer them. Hey there, me again. You probably remember me from the beginning of this video. I was also in the middle of the video, but that was a me from another time. This is the me from like 20 seconds after the beginning of this video. We're all kind of the same me. Anyway, you can check out that full video by clicking the link in the description or find it in the card up there. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to this channel, click the notification bell, then all, share it with friends, and catch you next time. This is How to Be Christian. You all have a great day.